Kindness is often seen as a universal virtue, something that should be given freely to everyone. We are taught from a young age that being kind is the right thing to do, that it makes the world a better place, and that it reflects good character. While there is truth in this, an important reality often gets ignored. Not everyone deserves your kindness. This may sound harsh at first, but when examined closely, it becomes clear that indiscriminate kindness can lead to personal harm, emotional exhaustion, and even a loss of self-respect. One of the most important things to understand is that kindness is not just an action. It is a resource like time, energy, and effort. It is something that should be invested wisely. When you give kindness to the wrong people, those who are manipulative, selfish, or toxic, you are essentially wasting that resource. Worse, you are encouraging behavior that can ultimately harm you. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, lies to you, or uses you, continuing to be kind to them does not help them become better people. Instead, it teaches them that they can treat you poorly without consequences. A key issue with being overly kind to everyone is that it opens the door to exploitation. There are people who see kindness not as a sign of goodness, but as a weakness. These individuals will take advantage of your generosity, your patience, and your willingness to help. They will ask for favors without giving anything in return. They will take your time without considering your needs, and they will drain your energy without a second thought. If you allow this to continue, you will find yourself in a cycle of giving without receiving, of helping without being appreciated, and of sacrificing your own well-being for people who do not care about yours. Being kind to everyone also places an unfair burden on you. When you try to accommodate everyone's needs, you neglect your own. You stretch yourself too thin trying to please people who may not even value your efforts. This is not selflessness. It is self-destruction. True kindness is not about making yourself small so that others can feel comfortable. It is about extending warmth and compassion while maintaining self-respect. If being kind to someone consistently leaves you feeling exhausted, unappreciated, or taken for granted, it is a sign that your kindness is being misplaced. It is also important to recognize that some people will never change no matter how kind you are to them. Many believe that if they are patient and understanding, they can help difficult or toxic individuals become better. While this may sometimes be true, it is often a false hope. Some people thrive on negativity, drama, and manipulation. No amount of kindness will make them change if they do not want to change. In fact, being kind to them only reinforces their behavior. If they see that they can be cruel, selfish, or dishonest without facing any real consequences, they have no reason to stop. Another dangerous aspect of being kind to everyone is that it can lead to resentment. When you constantly give and rarely receive, frustration builds up. You may start to feel unappreciated, used, or invisible. Over time, this can turn into bitterness, which can damage your relationships and your self-esteem. You may even begin to doubt your own worth, wondering why people do not treat you with the same kindness you show them. The problem, however, is not with you. It is with the fact that you are giving your kindness away too freely. Learning to be selective with your kindness is not selfish. It is necessary for maintaining emotional balance. Choosing who deserves your kindness does not mean becoming cold, rude, or indifferent. It simply means recognizing that kindness should be earned. Just as trust is built over time, so should the decision to be kind. This does not mean that you should be unkind to those who do not deserve your kindness. It simply means that you should not go out of your way to be generous with people who have not shown you respect, appreciation, or decency. Setting boundaries is crucial when it comes to kindness. Saying no does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who values their own time and energy. If someone only contacts you when they need something, if they never show gratitude for your efforts, or if they make you feel guilty for not always being available, these are clear signs that your kindness is being taken for granted. You do not owe kindness to those who do not value it. Ultimately, kindness is a beautiful thing when given to the right people. It strengthens relationships, builds trust, and creates a sense of warmth and connection. But when given to the wrong people, it becomes a source of exhaustion, frustration, and emotional damage. The ability to be kind is a strength, but knowing when to withhold it is an even greater strength. Instead of spreading your kindness thin by giving it to everyone, focus on those who truly deserve it. Those who appreciate, respect, and reciprocate it. In doing so, you not only protect yourself, but you also ensure that your kindness remains genuine and meaningful. Kindness is often regarded as one of the greatest human virtues, a trait that brings people together and fosters a sense of community. However, when kindness is given without limits or discernment, it can become a weakness rather than a strength. The unfortunate reality is that not everyone values kindness in the same way. Some people see it as an opportunity to take advantage of others, using their generosity, patience, and goodwill for their own benefit. When you are too kind to the wrong people, you risk becoming a target for manipulation, exploitation, and emotional exhaustion. People who take advantage of kindness are often skilled at identifying those who are more giving, more patient, and less likely to say no. They recognize the individuals who are always willing to help, even at their own expense, and they see an opportunity to use this to their advantage. This can happen in various aspects of life, at work, in friendships, in romantic relationships, and even within families. Someone who constantly relies on you for favors, emotional support, or financial help without offering anything in return is not valuing your kindness, but rather using it as a tool to serve their own needs. One of the most common ways people take advantage of kindness is through emotional manipulation. They might play the victim, making you feel guilty if you refuse to help them. They may exaggerate their struggles, using your empathy against you to get what they want. In some cases, they might even create a sense of obligation, making you believe that because you have helped them before, you must continue to do so. Over time, this pattern can become exhausting, leaving you drained and feeling as if your kindness is not truly appreciated, only expected. In the workplace, this dynamic can be even more harmful. If you are always the one volunteering for extra tasks, helping coworkers, or staying late to complete projects, some people will start to take your effort for granted. Instead of recognizing your hard work, they may begin to expect it. They might shift their responsibilities onto you, knowing that you will not refuse. While being helpful and cooperative is valuable in any job, there is a fine line between being a team player and allowing others to use you for their convenience. If you do not set boundaries, you may find yourself overwhelmed with responsibilities while others take credit for your efforts. In friendships and relationships, the imbalance of kindness can be even more personal. A true friend or partner values mutual respect, support, and appreciation. However, some individuals only stay close to those who serve their interests. They may constantly ask for favors but disappear when you need help. They may expect your understanding and patience, but never offer the same in return. If you are always the one making sacrifices, compromising, or adjusting your plans to accommodate others, it is a sign that your kindness is being exploited. Relationships should be built on reciprocity, not one-sided effort. The problem with being too kind to everyone is that it can create an expectation that you will always say yes. When people become accustomed to your generosity, they stop seeing it as a gift and start seeing it as a given. They may no longer appreciate the effort you put in because they assume it is just who you are and that you will always be there to accommodate them. This leads to a cycle where the more you give, the less it is valued. When you finally reach a point of exhaustion and decide to set boundaries, these same people may react with anger or disappointment, not because they truly need your kindness, but because they have become dependent on it. Learning to recognize when you are being taken advantage of is essential for your well-being. It does not mean that you should stop being kind altogether, but rather that you should be intentional about who you give your kindness to. There is a difference between being a generous person and allowing yourself to be used. True kindness should not come at the cost of your own happiness, mental health, or personal boundaries. One of the most effective ways to prevent being taken advantage of is to develop the ability to say no. Many people struggle with this because they fear disappointing others or being seen as selfish. However, saying no is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of self-respect. When you set boundaries and refuse to let people take advantage of your kindness, you teach them that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. Those who truly care about you will respect those boundaries, while those who are only using you will likely move on to someone else they can manipulate. Another important step is to observe patterns in people's behavior. If someone only contacts you when they need something, if they never check on your well-being, or if they always expect you to make the effort in your relationship, these are clear red flags. Pay attention to how people react when you set limits. If someone becomes upset or tries to guilt you into helping them, it is a sign that they were not valuing your kindness, only benefiting from it. It is also helpful to remind yourself that you do not owe kindness to everyone. While it is good to be a compassionate person, it is not your responsibility to fix other people's problems, to always be available, or to sacrifice your own needs for the sake of others. You have the right to prioritize yourself, to choose who deserves your kindness, and to walk away from those who take you for granted. In the end, kindness is a strength, but only when it is given wisely. There is nothing wrong with being a generous and caring person, but there is something wrong with allowing others to exploit those qualities. The key is balance. Being kind without being naive, being helpful without being used, and being compassionate without losing yourself in the process. When you learn to recognize and prevent people from taking advantage of you, your kindness will have more meaning, and you will be able to share it with those who truly deserve it. Kindness is often seen as an unquestionable virtue, something that should always be practiced without limits. It is associated with warmth, compassion, and generosity, qualities that make society more harmonious. However, kindness alone is not enough. When kindness is not backed by strength, it becomes a weakness rather than a strength. Strength in this context does not refer to physical power, but to the ability to stand firm, set boundaries, and uphold one's value. Without strength, kindness can be exploited, misused, or seen as a sign of passivity rather than genuine goodwill. A person who is kind without being strong is often taken advantage of. They give endlessly, hoping that their kindness will be recognized and reciprocated, but instead they are met with expectations rather than appreciation. People who lack strength find it difficult to say no, even when saying yes is detrimental to their well-being. They fear disappointing others, being judged, or causing conflict, so they continue to give in, even when they feel drained. This is not true kindness. It is submission. It allows others to dictate how they should act, and over time it leads to exhaustion and resentment. When kindness is not balanced with strength, it can lead to a loss of self-respect. A person who always prioritizes others over themselves may feel as though their own needs and feelings do not matter. They may convince themselves that being selfless is a noble pursuit, but deep down, they begin to feel invisible. The inability to assert themselves results in a quiet suffering where they sacrifice their happiness for the comfort of others. This is not kindness in its truest form. It is self-neglect. Genuine kindness should not come at the cost of one's own dignity and peace of mind. Strength is necessary to protect kindness from being misinterpreted as weakness. In a world where some people manipulate and exploit others for personal gain, a kind-hearted person without strength is an easy target. There are individuals who take advantage of those who are always willing to help, using their generosity without giving anything in return. If a person lacks the strength to recognize these patterns and set boundaries, they become trapped in an endless cycle of giving without receiving. This can occur in friendships, romantic relationships, workplaces, and even within families. Strength allows a person to walk away from those who do not respect their kindness, ensuring that their generosity is directed towards those who truly appreciate it. A critical aspect of strength is the ability to say no. Many people equate saying no with being mean or selfish, but this is a misunderstanding. Saying no when necessary is an act of self-respect. It signals to others that while kindness is a part of one's character, it does not mean they will tolerate being used. When a person is strong enough to say no, their kindness becomes more valuable because it is given intentionally rather than out of obligation. It carries weight because it is a choice, not an expectation forced upon them by others. Strength also enables a person to stand up for what is right, even when it is difficult. Sometimes being kind means telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. It means standing firm in one's beliefs rather than conforming to avoid conflict. A person who lacks strength may avoid difficult conversations because they fear hurting others, but in doing so, they allow problems to persist. True kindness does not mean always keeping the peace. It means caring enough to address important issues, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Strength allows a person to be honest and direct while maintaining compassion and respect. In leadership, kindness without strength results in ineffective decision-making. A leader who prioritizes kindness above all else may struggle to make tough choices, enforce rules, or hold people accountable. They may hesitate to correct mistakes or take decisive action for fear of upsetting others. This type of leadership creates an environment where people do not take responsibility for their actions, leading to dysfunction and inefficiency. Strong leaders, on the other hand, balance kindness with firmness. They treat people with respect, but also ensure that standards are upheld. Their kindness is meaningful because it does not compromise their authority or the well-being of the group. Similarly, in parenting, kindness without strength leads to permissiveness. Parents who want to be liked by their children may avoid discipline, allowing bad behavior to continue unchecked. They may believe that constantly saying yes and shielding their children from consequences is a form of love, but in reality, it prevents them from developing resilience and responsibility. Strong parents set clear expectations and enforce rules while still being loving and supportive. They understand that true kindness sometimes requires discipline, guidance, and difficult lessons. The most powerful form of kindness is one that is rooted in strength. This is the kind of kindness that commands respect rather than pity, that uplifts rather than enables, and that remains firm even in the face of opposition. A person who is both kind and strong knows when to give and when to withhold, when to help and when to step back, when to listen and when to speak up. Their kindness is not driven by fear of rejection or a need for approval, but by a deep understanding of its true purpose. Kindness without strength is weakness because it allows others to dictate one's actions, drains emotional energy, and leads to an imbalance in relationships. But kindness with strength is a force to be reckoned with. It is the ability to be compassionate without being naive, to be generous without being exploited, and to be understanding without being manipulated. It is a balance that ensures kindness remains a virtue rather than a vulnerability. When kindness is paired with strength, it becomes something far more powerful. It becomes a choice rather than an obligation, a gift rather than an expectation, and a true reflection of inner confidence and self-respect. Being kind and considerate is often seen as a sign of good character. Many people take pride in being helpful, accommodating, and agreeable, believing that these qualities strengthen relationships and create harmony. However, there is a downside to being too nice. When kindness is given without boundaries, it can lead to resentment. Over time, a person who constantly prioritizes others at their own expense may begin to feel unappreciated, exhausted, and even bitter. This resentment does not appear overnight. It builds slowly as one realizes that their kindness is often expected rather than valued. One of the main reasons excessive niceness leads to resentment is that it creates a pattern of one-sided relationships. When someone is always willing to accommodate others, people start to expect that behavior rather than appreciate it. Friends, family, co-workers, and even strangers may come to assume that the overly nice person will always say yes, always be available, and always put others first. As this expectation grows, the kindness that was once voluntary begins to feel like an obligation. The person who was once happy to help starts to feel trapped in a cycle of giving without receiving, leading to frustration and resentment. People who are too nice often struggle with setting boundaries. They find it difficult to say no because they fear disappointing others or being seen as selfish. However, constantly saying yes can lead to an overwhelming burden of responsibilities. They may take on extra work, agree to social events they do not want to attend, or offer help even when they are already exhausted. Over time, this leads to burnout. The frustration of always putting others first begins to outweigh the satisfaction of being kind. When they finally realize that their needs are being ignored, both by themselves and by others, resentment sets in. Another problem with excessive niceness is that it attracts the wrong kind of people. While kindness should ideally be met with gratitude and reciprocity, not everyone sees it that way. Some people view excessive niceness as a weakness and take advantage of it. They may manipulate, exploit, or use the overly nice person for their own benefit. These individuals are not concerned with fairness. They only care about what they can get. Over time, the realization that their kindness is being used rather than appreciated can make the overly nice person feel foolish, angry, or deeply hurt. The resentment that comes from being too nice does not just affect relationships with others, it also affects one's relationship with oneself. A person who constantly prioritizes others while neglecting their own needs begins to feel invisible. They may wonder why no one considers their feelings, why they are always the ones making sacrifices, and why they feel so drained. The truth is, people treat them this way because they have allowed it. When they realize that they have been putting themselves last for so long, they may feel angry at others, but more importantly, they may feel angry at themselves. This internal conflict can lead to self-doubt, frustration, and even a loss of self-worth. Resentment can also build when people do not express their true thoughts and feelings for the sake of maintaining peace. Overly nice individuals often avoid conflict even when they are unhappy with a situation. They may suppress their opinions, go along with decisions they disagree with, or smile through discomfort just to keep others happy. While this may seem like a way to maintain harmony, it actually creates deep frustration over time. The more they suppress their feelings, the more they feel unheard and unimportant. Eventually, their resentment may explode in unexpected ways through passive-aggressive behavior, emotional outbursts, or even the sudden decision to cut people off. A major issue with being too nice is that it creates unrealistic expectations. If someone is always accommodating, people assume they will continue to be that way. The moment they start setting boundaries or standing up for themselves, they are often met with confusion, disappointment, or even anger. People who have benefited from their constant kindness may feel entitled to it and may react negatively when it is no longer freely given. This reaction can be deeply frustrating because it reveals that their kindness was never truly appreciated. It was simply taken for granted. To prevent resentment, it is crucial to balance kindness with self-respect. Kindness should be a choice, not an obligation. It should come from a place of genuine goodwill, not from fear of rejection or a desire to please everyone. Learning to say no, setting boundaries, and prioritizing self-care are essential for maintaining a healthy balance. People who value and respect you will understand your need for balance, while those who are only taking advantage of your niceness will disappear. It is also important to recognize that being nice does not mean being a pushover. True kindness includes honesty, self-respect, and the ability to stand up for oneself. It is possible to be kind while also asserting one's needs. In fact, people respect those who have firm boundaries more than those who always try to please everyone. Being able to say, I care about you, but I need to take care of myself too, is a powerful way to maintain both kindness and strength. Resentment is not just harmful to relationships. It is harmful to one's mental and emotional well-being. It creates stress, anxiety, and a sense of dissatisfaction with life. Many people who struggle with resentment due to excessive niceness eventually reach a breaking point where they withdraw from relationships altogether. They may become cynical, distrustful, or emotionally closed off because they fear being used again. However, the problem was never with kindness itself. It was with the lack of balance. The key to overcoming this cycle is to practice self-awareness and self-advocacy. Recognize the signs of resentment before they grow too strong. Pay attention to how you feel when you say yes. Are you happy to help? Or do you feel obligated? Observe how people react when you set boundaries. Do they respect your limits, or do they try to push past them? Most importantly, remind yourself that your needs and feelings are just as important as anyone else's. Kindness should not be a burden. It should be something that brings joy and fulfillment, not frustration and resentment. When kindness is given freely but within limits, it remains a strength rather than a source of emotional exhaustion. Being nice is a valuable trait, but only when it is paired with self-respect, boundaries, and the courage to stand up for one's own needs. Niceness is often seen as a virtue, a quality that makes a person likable and easy to get along with. Many people strive to be nice in their interactions, believing that it fosters good relationships and harmony. However, while being nice can be beneficial, it is not nearly as important as respect. Niceness is about making others feel comfortable, avoiding conflict, and being agreeable, but respect goes much deeper. Respect is about valuing oneself and others, maintaining boundaries, and standing up for what is right, even when it is not the easiest thing to do. One of the biggest differences between niceness and respect is that niceness often focuses on short-term comfort, whereas respect builds long-term trust. A person who is overly nice may avoid difficult conversations because they do not want to upset others. They might agree with things they do not truly believe in, or say yes to requests they cannot realistically fulfill. While this might keep the peace momentarily, it can lead to frustration and resentment over time. Respect, on the other hand, requires honesty. It means being truthful about one's thoughts and feelings, even if it creates temporary discomfort. In the long run, people respect those who are honest more than those who simply say what others want to hear. Being too nice can also make a person seem weak or easily manipulated. Some people take advantage of niceness, seeing it as an opportunity to get what they want without giving anything in return. A person who prioritizes being nice over being respected may find themselves in situations where they are constantly being used. They may feel pressured to agree to unfair demands, take on more than they can handle, or tolerate disrespectful behavior just to avoid. Respect, however, sets clear boundaries. A respectful person treats others well, but they also expect to be treated well in return. They know when to say no and when to stand up for themselves, ensuring that their kindness is not mistaken for weakness. Respect is also more important than niceness in leadership and authority. A leader who is overly nice may struggle to enforce rules, hold people accountable, or make tough decisions. They might avoid addressing poor performance because they do not want to upset anyone, but this only creates bigger problems in the long run. A respected leader, however, understands the importance of fairness and discipline. They are firm but fair, ensuring that everyone is treated with dignity while maintaining high standards. Employees, students, or team members may not always like a strong leader, but they will respect them for being consistent, just, and principled. In relationships, respect is the foundation of genuine connection, while niceness alone can be superficial. A relationship based on niceness might involve avoiding difficult conversations, constantly agreeing to things to keep the other person happy, or suppressing personal needs for the sake of harmony. This may seem pleasant at first, but it can lead to a lack of authenticity. True respect, however, means valuing each other's opinions, listening to concerns, and being honest even when it is difficult. A respectful partner or friend does not just aim to please, they aim to understand, support, and uplift. Another reason respect is more important than niceness is that niceness is often inconsistent, while respect is a constant principle. People tend to be nice based on the situation or their mood. They may be nice to someone they like and less nice to someone they dislike. This makes niceness unreliable. It can disappear when a person is frustrated, stressed, or inconvenienced. Respect, on the other hand, does not change based on emotions. A respectful person treats others with dignity regardless of personal feelings. They do not have to like someone to treat them fairly, listen to their perspective, or acknowledge their worth. This makes respect a far stronger foundation for interactions than niceness. In society, respect fosters fairness and justice, while niceness can sometimes enable bad behavior. People who are too nice often let things slide because they do not want to cause trouble. They might ignore wrongdoing, tolerate rudeness, or avoid standing up for themselves or others. This can create environments where bad behavior continues unchecked. Respect, however, demands accountability. A respectful person does not look the other way when they see injustice or mistreatment. They speak up, not out of hostility, but out of principle. They understand that real harmony comes not from avoiding conflict, but from addressing problems with integrity and fairness. Respect also fosters self-confidence and self-worth in a way that niceness does not. A person who focuses too much on being nice often seeks approval from others. They worry about being liked and may go out of their way to accommodate everyone, even at their own expense. This can lead to feelings of insecurity and exhaustion because they are constantly trying to please people. A person who values respect, however, does not need constant approval. They know their own worth, stand by their values, and do not compromise themselves just to be liked. This sense of self-respect allows them to make decisions with confidence, even if others do not always agree. In the end, while niceness has its place, it should never be prioritized over respect. Niceness can create temporary harmony, but respect builds lasting trust. Niceness can make a person likable, but respect makes them valued. Niceness can avoid conflict, but respect resolves it in a meaningful way. The strongest and most meaningful relationships, whether personal, professional, or societal, are built on mutual respect. Being kind is good, but being kind while maintaining respect for oneself and for others is what truly matters. Kindness is a beautiful and powerful trait that can uplift others, strengthen relationships, and create a more compassionate world. However, kindness should always be a choice, not an obligation. When kindness is forced or expected, it loses its sincerity and becomes a burden rather than a meaningful gesture. True kindness comes from a place of genuine goodwill, not from fear, pressure, or social expectation. When people feel compelled to be kind at all times, regardless of their own well-being, they may experience resentment, exhaustion, and even a loss of self-respect. One of the key reasons kindness should be a choice is that it holds more value when it is freely given. If someone is kind because they feel they have no other option, their actions become performative rather than heartfelt. For example, if a person always agrees to help others out of fear of being seen as rude or selfish, their kindness is not coming from a place of generosity. It is coming from fear. On the other hand, when a person chooses to be kind because they truly want to help, their kindness has a deeper impact. People can often sense whether kindness is genuine or forced, and genuine kindness builds stronger connection. Obligatory kindness can also lead to emotional exhaustion. When people constantly feel pressured to be kind, even when they are mentally or physically drained, it can take a toll on their well-being. They may continue to give to others while neglecting their own needs, leading to burnout. Over time, they might start to feel frustrated, wondering why their kindness is never reciprocated. This frustration can turn into resentment, making them question whether their kindness is even worth it. When kindness is a choice rather than an obligation, people can set healthy boundaries and give without feeling depleted. Another major issue with obligatory kindness is that it can lead to people being taken advantage of. When someone is always kind, even to those who do not deserve it, they become an easy target for manipulation. Some people see endless kindness as a weakness and will exploit it for their own gain. They may continue to ask for favors, take more than they give, and push boundaries, knowing that the overly kind person will never say no. When kindness is given freely but with discretion, it remains a strength rather than a vulnerability. People who value their kindness will appreciate it, while those who try to exploit it will be kept at a distance. In many cases, people feel obligated to be kind because of societal expectation. They are taught that kindness is always the right response, even in situations where it is undeserved. While kindness can be transformative, it should not come at the expense of self-respect. There are times when being overly kind can enable bad behavior or prevent someone from standing up for themselves. If someone is treated unfairly at work, for example, constantly responding with kindness instead of asserting themselves may allow the mistreatment to continue. Similarly, in relationships, always being kind to a person who is rude or disrespectful only reinforces their behavior. In these situations, it is more important to set boundaries than to maintain a false sense of kindness. Choosing kindness rather than feeling obligated to be kind also allows for authenticity. People who feel forced to be kind may suppress their true feelings to avoid conflict. They may agree to things they do not want to do, smile through situations that make them uncomfortable, or avoid expressing their opinions for fear of upsetting others. This type of kindness is not genuine, it is a mask. Over time, suppressing true feelings can lead to frustration and even damage one's sense of identity. When kindness is a choice, people can express themselves honestly while still being respectful. They can choose when and how to be kind in a way that aligns with their values rather than simply acting out of obligation. There is also a significant difference between kindness and people-pleasing. People who feel obligated to be kind often do so because they want to be liked or avoid disappointing others. However, constantly prioritizing others' happiness over one's own can lead to an unhealthy cycle where a person's self-worth is tied to how much they do for others. Kindness should come from inner strength, not from a need for validation. When people are kind because they truly want to be rather than because they feel they must, they maintain their sense of self-worth regardless of how others respond. In parenting, teaching children that kindness is a choice rather than an obligation helps them develop stronger personal boundaries. Many children are taught to always be nice, even to those who treat them poorly. While kindness is an important value, it should not be taught at the expense of self-respect. Children should learn that it is okay to say no, to stand up for themselves, and to protect their emotional and physical well-being. When they understand that kindness is most meaningful when it is given freely, they grow up with a healthier understanding of relationships and self-worth. In leadership and professional settings, choosing kindness rather than being forced into it creates a stronger, more respected presence. A leader who is kind because they genuinely care about their team fosters a positive work environment. However, a leader who is kind because they fear being disliked may struggle to make tough decisions or enforce necessary boundaries. True leadership requires a balance of kindness and strength, ensuring that respect is maintained while still valuing the well-being of others. Ultimately, kindness is most powerful when it is a choice. It should not come from a place of obligation, fear, or societal pressure, but from a genuine desire to make a positive impact. When people choose to be kind rather than feeling forced into it, their actions are more meaningful, their relationships are healthier, and their sense of self-worth remains intact. Choosing kindness means knowing when to give and when to hold back, when to help and when to step away, and when to be gentle and when to be firm. It is not about pleasing everyone, but about acting with integrity, balance, and self-respect.